Welcome back to Wet Noodles, episode 11. I think we're at now. We're 11 weeks in. We do it once a week. Cool, yeah. Lots of VR cool stuff to talk about. We always gotta have a good time here. So, thanks for coming out again, Wes. Yeah. And starting off, we have unfortunate news. I'm sorry to say. Unfortunate VR news. Wanna know why?
Let's hear it.
I gotta talk about Apple again. I hate talking about Apple because Apple has been talked about so much when we've done these podcasts. When we talked about VR.
It's been so hyped now too.
I have to talk about more Apple news. Unfortunately, that's what happened. Okay, now let me run you through my week. Okay, now I work during the day. I am a VR developer, and at the same time when I work, I like at least my mornings to pull up the latest news on VR because I like to keep myself updated. I want to make sure that I understand what's going on in my own industry, right? So I wake up, I do my starting my work, and then I'm like another monitor. I'll maybe pull up a news feed for VR stuff, maybe look at one or two things, continue what I'm doing. Cool, right? And start of the week, there's this tweet. Okay, we're starting the news week with a tweet. I hate that, but anyways.
Right.
So you know who Lucky Palmer is, right? One of the founders of Oculus, right? He's pretty well respected in the industry because he started the small company that became big. It kind of sparked this whole industry just to start with. People respect him, right? So he tweets out, out of nowhere, unprompted. He tweets out, and it's literally it's like 5 words or something. I didn't count, but you can count yourself. He says the new Apple headset is amazing. I'm pretty sure that's the exact words. That's it. That's the tweet. Yeah. Okay, it's not really news. Okay, cool. It's interesting to see that he tried it out and he has something bad to say about it, but that's all he says, right? I swear to God, okay? I swear to God, for the rest of the week, up until today, there's at least 5 or more new articles, not just people talking, articles, literally just saying, Lucky Palmer says this about this. Brother, it's not news now, man. I don't need every outlet and their mothers saying this headline. It's just a tweet. It's not news. Okay, it's not news. But they had to take over the
news, though, right?
Oops. Yeah, I guess.
That's
like
the
there is stuff happening.
There's not much else going on. It's not much though. It's like small shit.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I understand that Apple does need to make news as a massive company making a headset. Okay, I understand anything that happens has to be news because at the end of the day, investors, people who have money, there's people that actually fund our gaming addictions, unfortunately, they're going to be looking at big companies like Apple. So obviously we need Apple to stay relevant in this market. We need this big company to be in the news cycle. It needs to be there. I'm not saying it's dumb that I have to see these Apple articles. I get it. But anyways, that's not really news, but it's something that happened this week that the Oculus founder said this. Now, that's not it. That's not all Apple. That's just the start of it. And that was start of my week. I'm like, now I got to read this for the rest of my week. But anyways, the next thing that happens, so there's a couple things that happened with this Apple news and quotations. There's a lot of non-news, I would call it, but still something that we should talk about because, again, how important this company is to this industry. Lucky Palmer, so the same guy, went on to do an interview. I believe the interview was this week. I don't remember. And it's something that didn't really make a whole lot of headlines now in comparison to his tweet, which is weird, but something that I thought was interesting and maybe you should hear too. We talked about the Big Screen Beyond a lot, another headset coming out this year that boasts very good displays, blah, 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 great stuff, right? He mentioned in this interview that so those displays in the Big Screen Beyond are very good, obviously, very high quality OLED screens. And he said that the screen manufacturer for the Big Screen Beyond is the same manufacturer that Apple is using in this very expensive headset.
Oh.
So,
wow.
I'd say it's still pretty interesting because that means that what we've seen from the Big Screen Beyond is that this is a manufacturer. We don't know what company does this, but they're making these pretty high quality micro screens, right? And the Big Screen Beyond itself is a headset that is expensive, but not as expensive as what we're expecting from the Apple headset. So if you're somebody that wants to spend a bit of money in the VR industry, but doesn't want to spend $3,000 potentially on an Apple headset, you could be kind of confident in knowing that if you get a Big Screen Beyond, you're kind of getting
Big Screen VR, it's the same.
You're getting
quality.
or same or similar quality, at least manufacturer standards, as the Apple. Now, he didn't mention like the quality of the screen. He didn't say, oh, it's the exact same resolution screen. Obviously, he can't say that probably under NDA, but he said it was the same manufacturer. So we can be led to believe that at least the quality control on the Big Screen Beyond's headsets are going to be, they're going to, as good as what Apple thinks a $3,000 headset's worth, but then the Big Screen Beyond is only like $1,000, right? So in comparison.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to know, and I think that's also good news when you talk about Apple and the other VR stuff. And another thing that came out with the Apple headset, now this is something that actually really relates to you, and maybe you can talk about this better than I can, because when I heard it, I wasn't surprised, but when other people heard it, they kind of made a stink about it. So this is the last bit of Apple news. Well, finally, we can get past it. It was leaked, the bill of materials. So this happens a lot with tech. Right? The bill of materials is basically how much it costs to make a phone or a piece of tech or whatever it is before the company that sells it upscales it or whatever. So it's just the price of just the pure CPU, screws, cases, components, metal.
Parts.
So it was leaked that Apple spends $1,500 to make this headset. So that's the bill of materials, is $1,500. So the rumored price of the headset is $3,000, still not confirmed though, just rumored. But also rumored and leaked, the bill of materials for it is $1,500. Do you find this surprising? Is my question.
I kind of do actually, because I always felt like hardware-wise, most companies keep fairly tight margins because hardware is like, because I think in the gaming industry, right, like hardware is always been kind of hard to make money on, and then they make money on like the accessories and then like the game licensing, all the other stuff. It's not really the console sales itself, it's everything around
it's the
it,
games,
right? So yeah, exactly. And phones and stuff I think are generally the same way, so kind of surprising a little bit, but I mean the thing is we don't know the actual price, so we don't know that Apple's going to charge $3,000, so that's like something you have to really remember. We don't have the price yet, but if it is $3,000, that's, I mean, there's a lot of things you have to factor in, like the development and cost of all that stuff too. So like you don't see that stuff in the cost of the manpower, and that's a lot. That's a lot, arguably more than the components itself. But I don't know. I mean, maybe they're judging it where it's like, even if we don't sell a lot of these, we can still do okay because we charge like we're double the price.
Or turn heads, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's part of their strategy. So like to kind of help keep it.
Something
like we have enough like business commitment orders or something like that,
Something I wanted to think about too was that kind of similar to what you're saying, that most of the time when we see tech, it's not like it's usually at a loss sometimes, right? Now I wanted to bring up things like consoles. Consoles are like that too. Consoles who sell at a loss, sell games, and then the big one, because we're talking about VR. Meta, Facebook, sells the Quest at a loss. That $400 headset is actually losing them money. And this is something I wanted to bring up because when Facebook sells the Quest, they expect to sell big quantities of it because they want to be the big VR player. They've sold, not that they've sold. They have
fuck ton of those
they've
things.
sold a lot, but they have 6 million active monthly users. Like not just sales,
all buying
but
software, using stuff,
so
subscriptions.
What Meta lost in selling the console so cheap, they've gained in getting a 75% market share on VR. That's their market share. It's massive. Meta dominates VR, and this is in part because they lose money to get more units out. Apple, on the other hand, at least from what we know, this headset they're not expecting this headset to sell to me and you. They don't expect it to sell to any other gamer out there. I don't think they expect every household to have this headset. So maybe they're okay with selling it at such a higher margin because they know already the only people that are going to be buying this headset are developers, enthusiasts, rich people. It's not going to sell well, or not at least nowhere close to as well as the Quest, and I think they know that. So
Yeah.
My question is, does it become surprising now if you think about that like they're not doing this angle that console manufacturers would do because they're not trying to be mainstream, they're not trying to get the consumer market, they're not trying to do a meta where they're trying to hostile take over everything, they're not trying to do that, right? Does it now sound, is that now still that number 1,500 to 3,000, is that still an egregious number, or is that more normal now that it's kind of taking that into account?
I mean, I was just thinking about that too, like as you were talking about, it's like I kind of think as far as usefulness of the headset itself, like an Apple headset, it's almost like a PS5 headset in my opinion. Because you know, like, how many VR games are Apple compatible? I don't know if any right now.
We won't know yet.
Yeah, we're releasing, but then they're releasing into an empty market for themselves. Like, what software are they going to be able to have running on their headset?
Exactly.
And stuff like that, you know, unless they're doing Windows on their headset or something. Like, I don't know, or maybe something that'll run Android or kind of do the same thing as the Quest, so it'll be like Quest type stuff. Like, there's no, I don't know. It's limited compared to what the Quest can do as well. I feel like already by that sense. I don't see it being usable with PC VR, at least not right away.
Not out of the box,
hacks it or something. Yeah, someone's gonna have to hack it. And something like that, or
well, we'll have to see.
PS5 things.
We'll obviously have to see. You can't be assuming, but I get it though. Yeah.
I mean, even if they were to release, like, how many devs can they get to make software for it before release and wait for profits until really, you know, like, that's also a huge ask as well. Like,
I'm a developer that's on the list to make things ahead of time for this headset, and I've received no news. So that means that
maybe nobody has.
I mean, I'm sure there are, but we're less than 6 months out from like the rumored release, maybe around, right? Because that's gonna be fallish time, or at least the rumored announcement. Like, I don't know. And like, if I were to have the headset right now, like, to start developing my app for it, I will think I'd be done in 6 months. I think I'd need more time than that.
What if they have some kind of insane like ecosystem that they are trying to roll, like VR chat but for Apple, you know, with all like everything interconnected into it? Like, maybe people can do their own apps or their own stuff and make money, like basically what they did for cell phone in the App Store, like the apps on cell phones. What if they do that for VR? Like, they've come up with the way to do that, or attempt to do that.
I mean, you're kind of describing like the Meta store that Meta already has on the Quest, like VR app store.
True, but then I think Meta is still kind of doing it the same way that it's been traditionally done on cell phones. Like, they're still doing it the same way it's on cell. I mean, what would be cool, and what I am like, it's just wistful thinking, I think, is that if Apple were to come up with something that is like VR centric, not cell phone centric.
So like, you walk into the store and you see like the apps that you want to play or something like that, or
something like that.
You walk into the world, like right? The world of the game, like kind of how we're in worlds now, and like it's like you can sell that. Okay, I see what you mean. Maybe try to revolutionize the wheel or whatever, right?
Yeah, because I mean, like, we are still, the VR space is still very like fresh and new. There's not really a lot for it, so we don't know what we will and won't like and enjoy in this space, and there's a lot of things that haven't been tried yet, so it'll be cool to see. Maybe I hope, I mean, that's wishful thinking. I hope, but I don't want to overhype the Apple headset. So one question I have for you, I don't know if you want to keep going with this topic, or if you have anything else to add with it. What do you think about like the implications of whether Apple succeeds or fails in this like endeavor? Because I
wanted to bring that up.
I think that it could be fairly heavy. Yeah, I think that it could be fairly heavy, like the implications of it.
So like, Apple, obviously massive company, that's why we keep talking about them, because once they say, hey, we got a VR headset, what happens is other companies that aren't involved in VR yet start turning their heads and say, oh wow, Apple's starting to make this stuff, like maybe there's money here, maybe Apple's going to start releasing more ways of getting money here, right? Like they're going to start turning their heads. So what happens is, and I think you briefly mentioned it earlier, is that like, if it fails, the implication is that all these heads that got turned will turn away. They're gonna be like, okay, they feel it's not gonna work, so they're gonna turn away, and then that's
VR is stupid, you know, that kind of thing.
It's easier to turn a head once than to turn a head that's been turned away already. You know, I don't know if that's a good description or not, but like if a company is ready to invest money into VR because they saw Apple do it, and then they see Apple fail, they pull all that money out. They're like, no, we don't want to do it anymore. They're never coming back, or at least very hard to get them back, right? So that's the implication, is that they need for this not to be a flop, or else VR will be. I don't want to see VR be in a bad state. There's still players that
it'll be stinted. It'll be stinted. I think for a while.
Because Apple succeeding, on the flip side, Apple succeeding has the potential implication to say there's going to be a boost now. You're going to have a bunch of companies like, okay, I want to go in now,
we could see renaissance of VR afterwards.
Potentially,
VR renaissance.
Yeah. So that's what
I don't want to hype it too much either, and I don't like news hyping it up too much either, because then it's putting a fuck ton of pressure on it. Everyone's like, okay, what the fuck's going on? And then it's going to be the crashes 100 times harder when it happens, you know, or if it happens.
I don't like hyping it up either. You can kind of tell by the way I don't even like talking about it, because it's so much non-news and it's always in the way. But I understand, though. I understand why the media overhypes this headset, and it's because exactly what I said before. It's a massive company coming in here. Like, heads are already starting to turn. They haven't even seen it yet, right? So the media has to compensate for that. They have to be like, wow, I've never seen VR before. This is brand new. Like, look at this thing from this company that I know, right? Maybe I'm somebody, if I'm an investor, I don't know anything about like the smaller industry of VR being like, maybe I don't know much about Meta. Maybe I don't know much about anything else. Valve is a company that not a lot of people know about, to be honest, right? Like now that Apple's coming in, like that's going to be a name that people are going to remember. So I get the media overhyping it. I understand. I still don't like it, but it makes sense, right? So
what if Apple had something like crazy going on with their screens, right? Where the screen is like fully kind of like wrapped around in all edges, so you have like the full FOV you would hope for. Like, what if they like that worked with the company making screens and we're like, we've got something fucking insane, and so this guy, you know, so everyone is reacting the way they are.
That's kind of funny.
Would be fucking insane.
That's kind of funny you mention that, because if you've seen the current leaks of the headset, it looks like a screen that kind of goes around your thing like that. So it's sort of what you're describing already. And the rumor behind that becomes that it's 120 FOV, which is a massive FOV, highest we would ever see if it does come out.
Would it work if it was just like, say, a single screen, or maybe like two screens but with no separation in the middle, you know, where they're like touching each other and you can see, you know, like with no separation in the middle?
Well,
like, I wonder how that would be.
We have to see. But Apple also
a lot of speculating right now.
Also another bit of news. It could relate to what you're saying. Apple had a trademark called Deep Screen that we don't know anything else about, other than that they trademarked the name Deep Screen, and it's going to be what's used in the VR headset. So maybe they're using some weird technology that you're thinking of, or maybe in a way we don't even know ourselves. But it seems like it's calling
it now. That's what it is. I'm calling it.
Yeah, you think so? It does seem like it's some kind of new way of doing Apple screens. That's what it's, or sorry, not Apple screens, just VR screens in general.
If they are able to do something like that, and it looks how I imagine it could look, I would probably dish out the 30K for one. Like, the idea and the thought of that is pretty fucking impressive, in my opinion. But that's a big if they could do it, and if they can pull it off well. But we'll see, I guess, in a couple weeks, 2 weeks.
Well, they have their big conference in June, so we'll see. Let's see, but let's get out of the Apple now. Apple's they've taken up a lot of time.
Next topic.
My last bit of VR stuff, and then you can say yours because you have a bunch. Or you said you had some. Just real quick tidbit I'd like to hear your thoughts on. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. I had briefly mentioned that there was a discussion happening in the VR chat community. Where people were talking about how there's no real feasible way to have creator economy. And that's like, for example, people in VR already, a lot of people don't know this, but people in VR already like are running clubs in quotations, right, where they have DJs, like real DJs playing music,
make money,
socialization. They have people that dance, and they're like actually professional dancers, so they actually know the moves, and so they're working
it's like
hard.
a job within VR.
Exactly. and some of these clubs are able to take donations, and they use it to pay off people who dance, people who make music, right? They have almost like a pseudo economy, sort of.
Like of Patreon type
of creators creating music, creating dances, creating these kind of contents, that's the only way that they make money. And that was a topic of discussion amongst these creators a few weeks back. They're saying like, VR chat doesn't have a very good way of getting money. There's no standard. Like, what is the standard? Like, should there be a standard? Should it even be a thing, right? So announced, what day is today? Yesterday. So announced yesterday, VR chat says that they will be implementing creator economy. That's literally what they called the patch. That's what they called it.
Pretty fucking sick, actually.
So I don't know much details because it hasn't been added yet. So some of that we just have to keep our eye on. But it's a cool idea because now we can think of like the future of VR. Now there is going to be money tossed around. My idea of what they're probably doing is like you can send and receive money in VR chat. Maybe I can do a service for you. Like maybe you know what I'm doing to you. Maybe we're having some fun, and then maybe you can pay me in the game. You know?
Yeah, I can see that. That's very interesting. Kind of like what we have with our like a Venmo or Cash App or something in VR chat, basically. Like I could see that. I could see that, and I could see that working. And with that, you could have a lot of things that go along with that. Like people can maybe buy and download things directly or something like that.
Kind of related to what you said before about Apple. it's almost kind of related there.
I think so. It's going to be a race then. I think if VR chat pull this off, VR chat could be the platform for like the future of whatever VR becomes, like if that grows into a big enough market, and then people like say are able to sell things through here, like create shops, like we go to the VCATs,
convention, right? Those are fun.
The VCATs like is basically like you can purchase things like
the VCAT is a first use case for this, I think. Imagine if you like had like a credit card in VR. Yeah, you just tap it and you get the clothes on.
Yeah, you just fucking tap it or whatever.
That's cool.
Like you gotta like do like a quick number code or something, and then you can get your card out and then tap or purchase, and then you get an email with like the link to whatever you bought, or maybe like have it shipped to, you can probably even buy things that could get shipped to you and stuff. That's pretty huge. That's pretty huge. Like that's exciting. That's very exciting to me
and hopefully
as a businessman.
Hopefully VR chat can make a secure line here, because maybe like if so maybe someone would feel more safe, like, oh, I want to buy, like, you have like a jacket that I want to buy.
You have someone you can talk to directly, like you can meet them, you can schedule a meet, or like do meets where people can like talk and ask about the product or whatever.
Exactly. Like, say if there's something I want to buy from you, you're like a clothing manufacturer, I want to buy this jacket off you, and it's like maybe I don't feel safe giving you my credit card, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna send you like through VR chat like this payment.
Good lord.
And you get it, and then I can get that back, right? It's like PayPal.
The implications of that is also really scary though too.
Yes. Oh yeah, he gets scammed. Oh yeah.
Legit... No, not even that, dude. People are gonna have legit VR jobs where they're in VR for say 6 hours a day or something. That's pretty fucking dystopian.
We just went down the negative right there.
That is where that goes.
Yeah,
like that
true.
is where that goes eventually. Like it'll go there, and that's something to not be discounted. So
definitely need to know the cons, of course.
That'll be interesting. That'll be crazy. Like to even. Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, very cool announcement from that for sure. And it's funny I was like, it does actually kind of make sense, and kind of links to what you said, how Apple could maybe sell things in VR, kind of similar.
Yeah.
Interesting idea.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of think that's the next step for VR, and I think whoever can
the global marketplace.
Yeah, whoever can tackle that, and I think VR chat is in an extremely good position to be that. Like Apple, or I think VR chat could become like the Amazon of the VR world in the future. Like I think eventually it could probably become that if they play it right, and if VR, because I think ultimately, I think you and me are of the same mind thing too. I think ultimately I think VR will grow and become as mainstream as like cell phones and shit and computers and stuff like that eventually.
At some point,
like it just takes time. I think it just takes time. You get enough people adopted to it, and then enough stuff on it, and so that is it's crazy to think about.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think about for sure.
It's
We're
cool.
seeing this
change. It's cool how much implication that one announcement makes. But cool.
Yeah,
everything starts somewhere. Everything starts somewhere, right? So.
Yeah. Hopefully that's what we're seeing. Is that beginning? That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Well, anyways, that's basically wraps up my VR stuff. So if you have a few topics, let me hear them before we end off here.
I just have two things to really talk about. But the first is I was seeing today about this experiment that people are like. I think it's in Japan or something that they're doing right now, and it's like VR surrogates. I think it would be more appropriate to say like VR, AR, kind of like MR surrogates. So basically what it is say, for example, the example that they use is say like a cooking class, right?
Yep.
But your teacher is in another country, right?
Yep.
And so you have a surrogate, and what that is a person with a VR headset on that has an iPad like on the front of it, kind of hiding their face, right? And they have one of those cameras, kind of like I forget the name for them, but it's like where it can do depth, kind of like the Kinect. They have like a bunch of small cameras
sensors,
like that.
The lidar sensors,
yeah. Well, it's like two cameras actually too, right?
Yeah.
And so, anyways, what happens is whoever's the teacher in foreign country, right, has one of those sensors on their head watching their hands, and their face is being shown on the iPad. And whoever is the surrogate can see the positioning and see what the person's hands are doing. So say they have all the cooking implements on the table in front of them, the cook or the teacher would mime the actions to say cook a meal, and the surrogate would actually follow it because they can see the hands in
it's like AR
in front of them.
That wouldn't be hard to do.
I thought that was a very No, it's quite simple actually, and it's a very interesting concept. It's kind of awkward though, because you have this person that's like like a robot basically, right?
Well, then, it's still their own free will, so they just kind of look and follow, look and learn, right? And they can see it more in person.
Yeah,
right?
But then can you imagine doing a class like that, right? And you have this person here that you can't see their face. You see someone else's face on an iPad over their face, right? And then they're basically teaching you, like the two of them together are teaching you a lesson. That'd be very interesting.
That's extremely irrelevant to me, actually. It's super relevant to me. because
you like to focus on the more AR side of things, I think, with your dev anyways.
Me and my business partner back then, they proposed that exact idea you just said to me. We proposed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's part of how we were able to start my career a long time ago, which was when I started doing training in AR. One of our future visions that we had pitched was that, like, exactly what you're saying, you could have a surrogate that has a headset as well, a teacher. Yeah. And you could have multiple students with the headset following what they do, and
you can do the class in multiple places all at once.
Exactly, that's the point. Like, that was the selling point.
Yeah.
And when we made the application that we made, we didn't make a surrogate application yet because that was kind of like a more future thing. But we made an application where instead of a person that was teaching you at the same time, you actually had like an AI, I guess, surrogate that kind of just did the motions, right? We were doing CPR specifically in this case, and like you would have it overlaid over you, and you would see it like from your point of view, and then you would follow. That's what we did make. So it was like a very early version of that, and that's, I think, because obviously I'm invested in it, like livelihood wise, I think that that is very useful. I think it's very useful. I think it will happen.
There's something to that.
I think it will happen eventually.
There's something to that. I could see that. I can even see that as a way to do like meetings somehow. Like, Can you imagine? Could you imagine, right? Like, say you go to some big box store, right? And then it's like a Karen goes to the big box store, and she's like super pissed off, and she's like, let me talk to your manager. And she gets the manager, and she's like, let me talk to somebody in C-suite or whatever, or someone higher up in the company. And the manager has to put this shit on, and then he becomes the surrogate for the Can you imagine something like that? Would be dystopian as fuck. Like,
that's funny.
That would be insane dystopian, but the idea of that is just that's crazy. I mean, it's kind of fucking ridiculous. But it's cool. I do see use in that. I do see use in that, especially in a learning perspective.
Enhance the learning of future generations. That's always what we strive for, right?
Yeah, especially like so much stuff in our world is you got to be hands-on. Like you can only learn so much shit through textbook. You got to get in there. So the other bit of news I just want to talk about too. I mean, it's nothing so big, but it's kind of an end of an era almost. Okay. But Quest 1s now are basically losing support. I think Meta is no longer updating them.
Yep.
And then I forget the date for it.
6 months after the beginning of this year.
I forget the date for it.
June.
Oh yeah. Damn.
So well, I have to know.
It's coming up.
I still have to hear back from Meta because we had to ask about our app. Because the policy up until this point was that if you wanted your game specifically to phase out the Quest 1, you by law had to warn your players 6 months in advance.
Right.
And then Meta has now given that 6 months in advance to everybody just in general. So we have to ask them if we have to give our own 6 months as well. But yeah, no, I've been involved in this process for a while. So end of an era, yes. I'll tell you the numbers. I'll tell you ballpark numbers. I'm not allowed to tell you real numbers. I'll tell you ballpark numbers.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's say my game.
Maybe don't just if it's related to your job. Maybe just don't say any numbers.
Okay, let's just say a game then.
I don't want you to get in trouble. Yeah. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Let's say population 1, for example. Let's say population 1. It's around 10,000 players or something a month. Let's just say that easy number 10. I would say the amount of Quest 1 users, because I would know, is less than 50 of the 10,000.
Oh, okay. Wow, damn. So I can see that because the Quest 2 Facebook really pulled out all the Meta pulled out all the stops for that one, and there's a lot of those headsets out there. Yeah.
And the reason why I said Pop 1, I'm not associated with Pop 1, so I don't know them, but I know that Pop 1 already dropped Quest 1 support. They already saw. Yeah. They already saw. Okay, we don't have enough Quest 1 players. I'll also tell you from my own experience that developing, when you have Quest 1 involved, sucks. At least for me, what I've specifically done, because I've done a lot of performance enhancement from in terms of
making sure I can
making my game runs well on the Quest 2, for example. So I do a lot of extra technology things like GPU skinning or culling, all that good stuff, right? Everyone does that in these games. However, the Quest 1 is limited because of how old the hardware is. It can't do a lot of those technologies. So if I make my game for Quest 2 and it's really good because I had all these technologies to make it run well, it's going to run so much worse than the Quest 1 already because it's lower power, but then I can't even take all these tech, right? So I really wanted this to happen earlier. I know it sucks for some Quest 1 people that are holding out. I understand the whole end of the era thing. I get it, but I really wanted this to happen earlier because it sucked trying to code for it. As a developer, I hated it.
Oh damn.
And I haven't done it in a while because I did that the end of last year, but I did not like having to worry about Quest 1 every time I did enhancements to what I was doing. That I don't think it's.
Then. I mean, it's very good. It's one less headache.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy news. I mean,
no,
I get the implication, but it's it's kind of like a console, right? This is the first time ever, so maybe modern example is not very good, but if you look at past consoles, Xbox 360, even Xbox One, it's pretty quickly they phased out the old console because they want to make games for the new one, right? And people were okay with that.
They want to focus on the new one.
I think it's not very surprising or that big of a deal for that reason. I think we should think of it as consoles. Okay, this is the new generation. It's been out for how many years already? It's not new really, so it's it's a good time. Right, and it's not it's not like the next console. So Quest 1, Quest 2. It's not like with the Quest 2 they made it double the price, right? It's the same price. So it's people can't be super surprised or stingy about it, right? If it was different, if they made the Quest 2 $1,000 versus the first one being 500, it's okay. That I would understand because now they're selling almost a different product line. I would say if you're going to change the price that drastically, but not this. It's the same product line. Makes sense. So. Definitely something to know. It's definitely still notable news, but not surprising, I would say. It's par for the course.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's worth talking about. I think just bringing it up a little bit. VR Chat also announced their end for it and everything too. So,
that makes sense.
Move on. We keep moving. Yeah. Well, that's all I've got for now.
Awesome. You know what? I'm happy we had an all VR episode again. Because the past two we had like split it half and half. But it's fine. I like talking about
other stuff like games and stuff too.
Yeah, but that's good. Lots of VR stuff. Let's wrap up here, Wes. Camera's over here.
Yeah.
It's right there. Look at it.
I can see it. I can see it.
Go to it. Smack it.
Oh my god.
Happy birthday. Thanks for watching. That's it. Go.
Happy birthday.
This is your favorite news source. Just kidding. We're not that notable. Okay, bye.